How would you like an over 350-page book filled with horror-themed adventures for levels 0 to 12? Do you want to undertake dangerous explorations in the dungeons of Drakkenheim? Would you like to fish, carve, and craft using systems made especially for 5th edition? Well, if you said yes to any of those questions, we've got books that will provide those answers and much more in the latest episode of D&D New Releases. So let's get started. Hi, it's Splinterverse. Welcome to another episode of D&D New Releases, where we offer first impressions of new third-party products for Dungeons & Dragons. We cover a selection of titles from Dungeon Masters Guild and DriveThruRPG each week. The titles are presented in alphabetical order, and all of them are linked in the video description. Purchasing the books using those links helps the channel, but you can also support us by purchasing one of our best-selling books. Our newest release, Dragonlance Companion, offers 180 pages for players and DMs to bring the magical world of Krynn to life. And like many of our books, it's available in hardcover and digital format. Our Swarms of the Multiverse offers over 70 brand new creatures, including their associated swarms, instructions on how to make your own balanced swarms, and lots of bonus materials such as 4 new demiplanes. Our Feywild Companion offers 150 pages of Feywild fun for players and DMs alike. Also, our book, Fizban's Vault of Draconic Secrets, contains over 50 pages of dragon-themed player options, including a subclass for each class and much more. We've got lineages suitable for any setting, as well as optional lineage rules in our Van Richten's Librum of Lineages. With our Potions Unlocked book, we have over 100 pages of material to take potions to the next level in your game. Please support the channel by purchasing our books using the links in the video description. First up, we have Deveros, the Amethyst Crown, which is part of a 5-book series called the Venestra Collection. It was a Kickstarter. Now it's come to DriveThruRPG. We're only covering one title per publisher, so we're not covering all 5 books. But trust me, they're released. You can check them out under Venestra. You can click that here at the top. It's under the title to see all their titles. But it's a really cool Kickstarter. We backed it, and it really is awesome to see that instead of just 1 or 2 books for a brand new setting, they went and released 5 all at once. So you're getting so much material, so much information. I mean, people wait years to get increased information about a setting. You know, it may be multiple years before Wizards of the Coast goes back to a particular setting. So when a third-party publisher just blasts you with so much material, it's really exciting to see. And it's only $15.17 for this PDF that is over 400 pages at 417. But the focus of this one, they're calling it the third book, but you can really read them in any order, is a colossal city setting featuring the capital of the Aldaran Empire. It's got over 600 locations, 20 districts, hundreds of diverse NPCs, including gossip, encounters, organizations, guilds, and plot hooks to go with those. So a lot to absorb here. You can use it as is for this massive setting, or you could cherry pick some things out of here to put into your own homebrew setting. Because it's so massive, you're going to have that opportunity. But it's really cool that it's covering so many different NPCs. You've got all these different benevolent and nefarious organizations. You've got action-packed plot hooks and then little tidbits of gossip. You've got these highly detailed hand-drawn city maps, as well as additional guides on buying and renting property in this colossal city, some downtime jobs the characters can take on, how does transportation work, food and drink. I mean, it is covered. 470 pages, and this is just one book. Like I said, if you click this, you're going to get to see other titles from Venestra. They released a bunch of titles for the series this week, so definitely want to check out some of the other ones by clicking on that link, just like I did after you click our link in the video description. But let's look inside the book. So you can see in this particular book, it's going to go through all those districts, all those organizations, something called the Embers, and then some character suggestions where there's alignments, kinships, citizenship, languages. I mean, there's all sorts of coverage. So whichever way you want to go, they're going to have information for you. But yeah, beautiful artwork, beautiful layout. I mean, look at the detail on these maps. Really, really stunning. And this hand-drawn one is awesome as well, because maybe that's something the characters find, or you can use it yourself, however you want to go about it. But I mean, here we've got Primus Caesar Helios Alderus illustrated as you're reading about him in the text. So nice to see everything so lovingly crafted. You're seeing some sort of Roman inspired material, which is really cool too. Here's something called the Amber Legion card. That looks really nice. Bunch of guilds. I mean, just tons of them. We're going to look at those in just a minute. There's some criminal guilds. This is Embers are the byproduct of threads of your soul being interwoven with soul threads of one or more deities. Many people throughout the medial plane are fortunate enough to have these deific soul threads within them. And as players within Deveros, you are likely to be one such person. Those with embers are known as ember blood or ember kin. Your ember is a mark upon your body similar to a tattoo, which represents some aspect of your core personality and self, or perhaps some innermost passion or desire. So that's a cool concept, that you're going to be connected to deities with your markings, and it shows some examples here, which is really nice. And then it gives you a list of all the different embers, archetypes that it goes with, the gods that it goes with, the abilities that it goes with. So really well thought out and laid out here, which is so nice. You have kinship, citizenship. I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. We're only 18 pages into this, and I mean, we've covered so much ground. So can you imagine what awaits you in the 417 pages of just this book, not to mention all the others in the series? And like I said, I backed it on Kickstarter, and I'm so happy to have my collection of it. Haven't got much time to spend with it lately, unfortunately, but I'm happy to know it's there in my collection to enjoy. You've got Bard College of Five, explore the diverse world of Arden's famed 5 musical instruments: the lute, the lyre, the tibia, the timpani, and the cornu. Summon these instruments and grant your party additional boons based on their bardic inspiration effects. So that's a fun idea for a college for the bards, right? Is just focus it around the different instruments that you can summon, and that really helps bring the bard class to life and distinguish it from other classes, right? Is that connection to instruments that you sometimes see, a lot of times see with bards. So really cool to see that. There's the emotion domain for the cleric, the revelry domain for the cleric. You've also got legionarius for the fighter, Griffin Rider for the fighter. I mean, fun stuff in here. But let's go back up and read. I want to read a little bit. I always like reading about factions and guilds. So let me read a couple of those for you, because I just want you to see how in-depth this is. It's not like they're giving you 1 guild or 2 guilds. They're giving you a ton of guilds. So like I said, you can cherry pick them out, put them in your homebrew, or you can just use this whole thing as is. I mean, I think you could do multiple campaigns in this setting before you'd really uncover everything in these books, because they've just really done such a good job of being comprehensive and thinking of all the different things that you might need if you wanted to run a campaign in Deveros. So you've got the Bloodbound Brethren, also known just as the Bloodbound. These are primarily legionary, who dedicate themselves entirely to Quar and bloodlet regularly to the god of war. So there's a god that they worship, it sounds like Quar, and he's probably the god of war. And then they like cut themselves and bleed to support their god. That's like kind of a ritual they do, it looks like. And then you've got Capitola, a high society club formed primarily of Capitan political group members, well known for their debauchery. Anyone who wishes to dabble in Alderan's political life and who isn't part of the upper classes might find themselves seeking entry into Capitola to socialize with Alderan's elite. So that's a good idea, right? Having a faction that's focused on being a point of entry to the nobility or society or whatever, right? Because you're not every character is going to be born with wealth or connections or status, right? And so sometimes there's going to be a need to infiltrate and get in there. And so if you have a faction that's kind of gatekeepers for that, that could be an interesting way to role play. Maybe your party has to befriend that group to get to a particular event where something is going to happen that they have to stop or encourage, whatever, right? And I'm just jumping around here. There's a bunch of guilds. We're only reading a few. Magnatus, a research guild primarily focused on archaeology and the ancient Valorian Empire. Magnatus are one of the city's largest contract givers, always seeking merciers to protect their expeditions out into dangerous ruins and dungeons. So that would be one that maybe would be a patron for your party and send them on an adventure. And you could see where they could have conflicts between each other. You know, the bloodbound, all this bloodletting. Maybe it's getting in the way of something else. Maybe the Capitola are irritated because they're having ceremonies or rituals in a place that they need access to do something else, or to get further ingratiated with high society. Or maybe the Magnatus is going to hire you to spy on the bloodbound. I mean, there's so many ways these factions could interact, and we've only talked about 3. So when you think about $15.17, and we just read 3 of the mini guilds and the 600 detailed locations that are in here, and all these NPCs that are in here, and the gossip and all this stuff. I mean, you could just go crazy with this. Take so many pieces and put them wherever you want to use them, because you're not going to be able to use, even if you play Deveros, there's just no way you can use every little tidbit in these books. There's so much. So I want you to get your journey started to Deveros by looking for it in the video description links under Deveros, the Amethyst Crown, and give it a click. Next, we have Dungeons of Drakkenheim from Ghostfire Gaming, $24.99 for the PDF, and it's 256 pages. This book's been out for a little while, but it's just come to DriveThru RPG this week, so that's why we include it. It's a new release for DriveThru. And Ghostfire Gaming is really well known. They do lots of awesome stuff, and this one is no exception because it is a really cool adventure for characters levels 1 to 13. And it's designed by the Dungeon Dudes, based on the original live stream game where they broadcast that on YouTube and Twitch. So if you're familiar with that, live play, you'll definitely want to grab this so you can relive it on your own. Sounds like one of my cats, if you can hear it in the background, once it as well. They're always meowing when I'm recording, but that's okay. It says 15 years ago, Drakkenheim was destroyed by an eldritch storm of falling stars. Now the city is a dismal urban wasteland contaminated by otherworldly magic and haunted by hideous monsters. Fantastic wealth, lost knowledge, and powerful artifacts lie ready for the taking by adventurers brave or foolish enough to venture into the ruins. So what a cool place. There's an eldritch storm, which is not a normal storm, right? It's magical, all this stuff. Causes falling stars kind of to come down, hit the city, mess it up, contaminate it, make it a urban wasteland. And then you've got these hideous monsters that are terrorizing the place as a result. You got leftover magic. I mean, it's just a melting pot of fantastical things. But as part of this adventure, your characters are going to embark on dangerous expeditions, exploring. You're going to have specific interactions from faction leaders and NPCs specific to the campaign. Character encounters of fierce battles with predatory beasts, mutated monstrosities, and terrifying abominations produced by the mysterious meteor shower. So those quote-unquote falling stars did cause a lot of this, right? So you're going to have to maybe even understand that if you're from another area, if you're showing up to this area for the first time as your character, or maybe you've grown up around it or been around it long enough that you are the person that's telling the party, oh yeah, that's because of this meteor shower. Man, everything changed after that, or whatever, right? There's so many ways that you can connect your characters to this really cool falling stars image, this eldritch storm that happened. And just because it was an actual play doesn't mean you have to follow exactly the way they did it, right? You can tweak it and make it your own. But it's cool because you could go see how some of the things they ran with this back in the day. And there's also a Roll20 version. So if you want to use Roll20, then you're going to have that option. You can scroll down after clicking our link to get the bundle, which gives you both of those for $54.99. So just a little bit more to get that. But the $24.99 is going to give you those 256 pages of goodness. And I mean, look at these maps. This detailed map of Drakkenheim. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. It looks so cool. I love the colors and how vast it is. I mean, in all these little sections sectioned off by the streets and the walls. Very, very cool. And that's just the first few pages. We're going now to the table of contents, and you can see there's an intro. They've got a whole overview of what you're going to be dealing with as far as character advancement. You get a flow chart for the adventure. We love those. That always really helps. Then a whole section on factions, Emberwood Village, and exploring Drakkenheim, and then outside the walls, inside the walls, all the different things. The castle, this seems very sandbox, like you can kind of go whichever way you want to go, explore different areas. And I think that's really cool for a setting like this because there's so many areas to explore, and maybe the meteor shower impacted different areas in different ways. And so traveling to the Old Town Cistern versus the Black Ivory Inn, you're going to have a different experience in each of these places. So they're really covering that for you. They're going to show you the area details, the developments that can happen there, and just an overview. So you get to know the area really in detail. And this could be a really great base for your characters to have adventures beyond this, because this goes to level 13, but maybe you want to keep playing to 14, 15, 16, whatever. And so this could be a home base. You get to know all these areas, and you just keep venturing further and further into the area or even the surrounding area. But you've got new monsters like the Delirium Dreg, 𝙎𝙬𝙘𝙀, Warlock of the Rat God, Contaminated Elementals, and then legendary creatures as well. A bunch of NPCs, spells, character backgrounds. I mean, lots and lots of good stuff. There's a really good picture of the area. It gives you the campaign overview. We'll read a little bit of this in a second, but I just want to see how beautifully laid out this is too. I love the fonts, the colors, the page layout. I mean, you can really easily absorb this. But it talks about delirium here. It says iridescent crystals of vast magical potential are found throughout Drakkenheim. Known as delirium, these lambent stones emanate unnatural energies that induce madness and monstrous transformations. Despite these dangers, delirium is ideally suited to crafting magic items and fueling mighty new spells. Sorcerers, warlocks, wizards, and all manner of occult magicians crave its supernatural power. Thus, delirium commands a high price within arcane circles and underground markets alike. Many prospectors risk everything to collect a few fragments, but the true origins of the strange mineral remain unknown. The rival factions stand divided over whether the crystal should be destroyed, harnessed, or worshipped, and their simmering disagreements threaten outright war. And so there's an appendix that talks about magic and spells related to these crystals. So I love that. I mean, people are going delirious for the delirium. And it's nice that there's some sort of physical manifestation of the magical potential of Drakkenheim. It's these little crystals, and those could be tucked anywhere. They could be in a flower pot, under a rock, behind a loose brick, in a barrel. I mean, wherever in this place you could find these little pieces of delirium. And it's almost like a currency in a way, because people feel differently about it. Some want to destroy it, some covet it, right? So you could just even have some fun revealing that, because maybe at first you see something shiny, don't know what it is, you grab it, and then later you realize, oh, I grabbed something that this group over here thinks is basically the devil. Right? So fun little thing that's layered over this that I like. And then you got rival factions here. It looks like a number of them, including something called the Hooded Lanterns. This is formerly known as the Fourth provisional expeditionary force to reclaim the capital. The Hooded Lanterns are an irregular military drawn up from veterans of the Civil War and remnants of the old Drakkenheim City Watch. Led by the Dour Lord Commander Elias Drexel, they wage a guerrilla war against the monsters, bandits, and scavengers who have taken root in their nation's capital. So yeah, I mean, that is something you're going to come in, face to face with if you're wandering this area. And just the name, the Hooded Lanterns. So maybe they wear hoods, maybe they carry lanterns, and that could be a little creepy coming upon a group of hooded people with lanterns at night, right? If you're arriving in Drakkenheim at night, potentially. Really, really cool. You got the Amethyst Academy, a magical school for sorcerers and wizards. You've got the Followers of the Falling Fire. It says annihilation of Drakkenheim incited a serious religious schism within the faith of the Sacred Flame. A new sect has emerged known as the Followers of the Falling Fire, who adhere to the prophecies of the former Flamekeeper, Lucretia Mathias. She attests that the delirium is a divine gift, not a blight, and that these sacred stones will offer salvation against a greater darkness yet to come. So, when something magical like this happens and you have people that have religious beliefs, it can change it. And that's what it's showing here, right? That they're picking up on something that isn't written about. It actually occurred and they saw it. And so now they're changing their religion. They're splitting off from the main group and creating their own way because maybe they have a different attitude about some of the stuff. Maybe they've been affected differently. So lots going on. And we're barely, again, scratching the surface because you can even have personal quests here. It says a character's core motivation for adventuring in Drakkenheim is represented by their personal quest. This is a specific individual objective for player characters to achieve during the campaign, but players need not reveal their personal quest to each other. When a character completes their personal quest, they choose one of the following rewards. So you can have a new feat, ability score, an apocalyptic vision, arcane secrets, blighted landscape, or claim the throne. So I'll read that one for you. Though my family has fallen on hard times, we were distantly related to the royal house von Kessel. I may have a claim to the throne of Drakkenheim. My personal quest is to search the cathedral, noble estates, and the castle for sufficient evidence to exclusively or conclusively prove my inheritance. Then I will take the crown for myself. So that could be really fun. And I like that you can make these secret, and that there's some mechanical things that can happen or some monetary things, right? It's not just all like mechanics. So fun stuff to go along with this really cool adventure. I mean, Ghostfire always does it right. Can't go wrong. Every purchase of theirs that I've seen has been worth it to me. So hopefully you feel the same way and you'll check it out as well. But first, you have to look for it in our video description links under Dungeons of Drakkenheim and give it a click. Next, we have Libris Nocturnum. I don't know why I was adding an of in there. It's Libris Nocturnum. And it's described as a 5th edition compatible horror adventure anthology from Lunch Break Heroes. And it's $24.99 for 365 pages. We got some big books this week, right? It says, embark on a spine-chilling journey in this anthology of adventures that will haunt your players every step. Within the pages of this tome, fear takes shape in the form of flesh-eating zombies, diabolical devils with a penchant for contact, unhinged mad scientists, and horrors that span dimensions. Will your players rise to the challenge or succumb to the darkness that lurks around every corner? So it's an array of adventures. And that wide range of levels. They've got 0 all the way up to level 12. You can craft your own narrative by picking and choosing your favorite quests or immerse your gaming group in a dedicated campaign that traverses the entire anthology. The choice is yours, but one thing is certain: the horrors that await will leave an indelible mark on your gaming experience. So really, really cool concept. I mean, horror is very popular. There's lots of great horror movies and fiction. And so, Ravenloft, of course, brings a little bit of the horror tropes and things to D&D. But to have a whole anthology of adventures. Now, you could use these with Ravenloft or some other dark setting, maybe Grimdark or, one of the other ones that are out there. Or you can just place them in your own. That's the beauty of an anthology, is you can pick and choose where to plug these in, use what you want, lose what you don't, all that stuff. But there's so much in here. I mean, you can see Zombies Attack, Death by Lantern Light, The Ageless Bones, The Fog of Waymore, Feast of the Damned. I mean, these sound like really cool horror movies, right? So, and you're getting really nice artwork, great layout. Again, such great stuff here. And so this first one that we're going to get to see a little bit of, so we're going to get to look at the first adventure. It says it is for suggested level of 0. So that's before you even make your character or really get your character's core abilities. So it says the character's world is turned upside down when a lich necromancer, 𝘎𝙤𝙘, is confronted by a band of heroes. The conflict far transcends the abilities of any of the characters. However, their only goal is to survive and escape the hellscape of ravenous undead created by 𝘎𝙤𝙘. In order to facilitate level 0 play, pre-made characters are provided at the end of this adventure, and printable character sheets are available online at their website. That's cool. So it gives you the background, how to run it, what each of the chapters are. And then it says the adventure begins on a sunny afternoon in the town of Harcourt. The townsfolk are out and about, generally minding their own business and going about their day. Ask each of your players to briefly describe what their character is doing on such a fine day. The players can decide freely if they want to be in a group or separately doing their own thing. Let them interact with the townsfolk for a short time. The only important thing is that they all end up in the same area at the start of the adventure. So it says level 0 characters have few hit points and even fewer defenses. Use this system of consequences whenever a player character falls victim to a zombie. And then it tells you how to deal with it. That's nice. I mean, you don't see a lot of level 0. I wish there was more level 0 stuff in 5th edition, because there is level 0 stuff in previous editions and you just don't see it. I mean, maybe once, twice at most I've seen it for 5th edition. So it's so great to see here. It says, when you're ready to begin, the everyday ideal is interrupted rather harshly. Read or paraphrase the following. So I'm going to read just part of this because it's long here. A sudden crack and a jolt of green lightning announced the arrival of a skeletal figure floating above the roofs of your hometown. The figure is holding a sickly green orb, illuminating a face that is little more than a parchment-thin skin drawn across a skull. Before you can wonder what is going on, a paladin resplendent in golden armor and riding a griffin tackles the skeletal figure out of the sky, crashing directly into your midst among the bustling street. The skeletal figure raises his arm, a bony finger outstretched. Crack! A burst of green lightning shoots down the street and drops any of the panicking civilians where they stand. Just before the lightning reaches you, a winged warrior lands on the ground in front of you. Sparkling with protective energy, the lightning shatters on her armor, dispersing it into the surrounding crowd, but diverting from you. So you can see how cinematic this is going to be, right? There's these paladins coming in and flying warriors and lightning and skeletons with bony fingers pointing at you, and I mean, you're just trying to figure out what is even going on, and it's interrupting your level 0 existence, right? And then you're going to have to rise through the zombie rise and presumably become a full-fledged character by the end of this. But that's just chapter 1, and then you get to chapter 2. You go through the 4 scenes that are here listed, dealing with the zombie attack, and etc. So fun. I mean, I think a book filled with things like this is really cool. You can live out your Walking Dead fantasies. You can live out, further Ravenloft adventures. Maybe you have even just a region of your homebrew setting that is going to be darker than normal. And so you have to come up with adventures to be in that dark region. So this is going to be really, really cool. So many pages, 365 pages. That's a lot. So look for it. On the video description links, it's under Libris, Nocturnum, and give it a click. Next, we have the Menagerie, the Elwood Chronicles. It's $19.00 for the PDF. But you can also get a hardcover premium color book for $49.58, or both of those for $54.58. And it's by Arcane Hound LLC, and it is 202 pages, and it's by authors John Carroll and Devin Edgerton. It says, any adventurer unfortunate enough to end up here will find a paradoxical world teeming with dangerous creatures, obverse biomes, and an unsettling chromatic moon that seems to shift between space and time. Scorching days and frigid nights on an endless sea of sand are crawling with all manners of nightmares that are forced to call this desert home. So, really descriptive, creative place. I love the writing here. It makes me inspired, makes me interested to see what's going to happen next. It says, fear the whispers among the winds, calm your desires, see without seeing, uncover the secrets of creation, or let your reality sink into the treacherous sands. Find the magi, go looking for Orson Elwood. So you're getting 20 plus magic items, 20 plus spells, 20 plus monsters, a new subclass, new background, new worlds, and of course, beautiful artwork. So really, really cool. And this was previously a Kickstarter, so there's a video you can watch about it. Very, very nice. And it's cool to see all these Kickstarter books coming to Drive Through, where you can add them to your digital collection under the library tab up here, where they're all together. That way, you know, if your computer dies, whatever, you can still get access to your books. You're not losing them. All right, so you got your chapters. It says travel to the Menagerie, desert survival, Bog Oolowup Kingdom, the Red Mountains. I mean, just fun little locations here before you get to your creatures, monsters, magic items, spells, all that stuff as well. So it's cool that you're getting basically a campaign with a bunch of player materials as well. I mean, that's kind of like the Wizards of the Coast model, and you don't often see that in third-party books. So, but look at all this really beautiful artwork as we're scrolling through. There's alternative intros even for the campaign. It says it's written to go along with the 3D models that they had in their Kickstarter campaign, although it can be played on its own as well. 1 to 6 players. And it says around levels 1 to 5 when starting, and they'll likely get to level 10 over the 10 to 15 sessions. The venture starts off in a large metropolitan port city, a Braithport, protected by their military known as the Silver Wardens, recognizable by their insignia of a sword and shield with wings. So really cool. And you got a little map here that goes along with the Menagerie, and then, as I said, they're giving you alternative ways to connect the party, and some descriptions of some areas. It says the Menagerie, a realm of endless possibilities, beckons adventurers to explore its mysteries, a testament to the eccentric brilliance of the enigmatic wizard Profusius Whistlebank. This dimension of existence, intricately connected to the Shadowfell, offers a pathway to a myriad of unique pocket dimensions. The journey to the Menagerie is one that demands a dash of magical know-how, and upon arrival, travelers are thrust into a harsh desert environment. Here, the relentless sun beats down upon the barren landscape where resources are scarce as water in a drought. The only lifelines in this scorching expanse are the scattered portals that punctuate the unforgiving terrain. It says every portal leads to a different world within this world, each a distinct universe unto itself, and all endowed with their own set of trials and treasures. Some portals open to frozen tundras, where travelers must contend with ferocious winter creatures. Others transport the daring to the heart of lush Feywild forests. So you're going to be hopping all around different areas, different planes with these this Menagerie. And this is, very well timed because Planescape just came out. So there's some things you might want to repurpose from that book or any of the many connected third-party books from DM's Guild that we've covered on this series in the past. So I love that it's got some sort of planner hopping stuff going on in here, because you can easily transition from this to Planescape stuff and back based on what they've got set up here. And it says this is the crucial prologue here that propels our intrepid adventurers toward the Menagerie. Whether you're embarking on a standalone campaign using this book or weaving a side quest into the grand tapestry of your world, this chapter is versatile and can be effortlessly substituted to harmonize with your narrative. So you got a prisoner transfer option. Just really, really cool. Love it. The artwork is so good in here. I mean, look at that. Some sort of monk or rogue style character with a flaming fist. Looks like, but maybe they're just a member of a cult. But fun. Yeah, I'm loving the releases this week. Are so creative and good. Look at this cover, even is really awesome. So look for it under the Menagerie, the Elwood Chronicles, in the links below, and give it a click. Next, we have Sigil's Secret Menu. So this is a DM's Guild title, so it's connected directly to Planescape's Sigil, or Sigil. I'm not sure how they pronounce it. I think it might be Sigil, but anyway, I'm going to say Sigil because that's what the real word is. But it's got all kinds of fun stuff in it. It's from a bunch of folks, including Dying Sun Games, and a whole host of folks listed here, so I'm not going to list all those for you. You can read that. It's best copper seller already. It's a magic item collection and is a companion book to Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse. It expands upon the content provided in Sigil and the Outlands, or Sigil and the Outlands, and the addition of the Secret Menu, a union of street food vendors and exclusive magic item store set within Sigil's Hive Ward. So very, very cool to think about. You know, we in the real world, we have these secret menus, right? You hear these stories of the baristas getting upset because people keep ordering these complicated, horrible secret menu items, right? But these authors have taken that concept and said maybe there's a secret menu within these vendors within Sigil, and they're running around helping people get magic items because they're ordering off this menu, or whatever it is, code for, right? But it says with 32 magic items, there's 2 themed for every outer plane of the Great Will cosmology. You get 6 unique street food vendors, each with their own food menus, backgrounds, and activities, an exclusive dealer's hall with rules for gaining VIP access, purchasing magic items, and hall security. It says fill your campaigns with a cornucopia of unique magic items from the voices of 11 creative writers. So yes, they've got a ton of people involved in this, which is also nice to see. So here's your table of contents. They've got links in their PDF, which we love. And, you know, this is 22 pages of fun. So it says Sigil is an eccentric metropolis known as the Crossroads of the Multiverse, stationed in the middle of the Outlands. All manner of creatures from across the plains converge in the city's winding streets. Bladed buildings of varying architectural styles house a gallery of inhabitants. The citizens of Sigil maintain an uneasy peace, respecting the great city as neutral ground from common planar conflicts. Many creatures who find themselves estranged or exiled from their home planes come to find home in Sigil's motley streets. So it's a good overview, of course, but then we get into the secret menu. It says the secret menu is an underground union of grease pits food vendors. The members run their own food stands and cooperate to protect themselves from the hive mind's sinister elements. Additionally, the group fences magical items from across the planescape. So that makes sense that they would be fences as well. But here's some of the secret menu codes. It's a spoken message: keep to the menu, no substitutions. So the coded meaning of that is danger nearby, stop any illegal activity. That makes sense. It actually has, you know, if you're saying keep to the menu, that's like stick to the legal stuff. Take care of the house cleaning. It says take these VIPs to the dealer's hall and I'll watch the shop. Time to swap out the sauces. Customers coming out of the dealer's hall, keep your eyes open. You know, some really interesting codes you could play with there. Union members, you got the Bog Standard is one of the members of the union, and they've got their own menu. And then you've got something called Humongous Fungus. That's a fun name. It's a Myconid-owned sandwich parlor seated within a massive toadstool capped in hazy yellows and greens. Peering into its circular windows, the sandwich parlor is full of smiling customers and buzzing atmosphere. Patrons can find seating made of hardened white mycelium-shaped benches outside. Customers rave about the stand's efficiency, commenting how their food orders are magically understood before spoken. That's fun. That could be fun to roleplay for sure. Even though the sandwiches at Humongous Fungus are created with extreme precision, there is always some unavoidable cross-contamination due to the myconid spores. Each sandwich grants a random additional effect for 1 hour after being eaten. So there's a little sandwich effects table. That's fun. Yeah. So, and I like the name Humongous Fungus. You can have a lot of fun with that. And myconids. I think myconids and spores and all that stuff are also really cool. I mean, just lots and lots of good stuff in this secret menu, and it actually makes sense why there's a secret menu with this really cool illithid on the cover, dropping it looks like a cauldron full of stuff. So, gotta check it out. Gotta expand your Planescape options, and you could even use this somewhere else, I'm sure. But I think it's really awesome for Planescape as well. So check it out. It's under Sigil's secret menu in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we have Spelljammer Carnivant by William Roeder. It's a 10th to 17th level adventure for Spelljammer. And, Spelljammer came out a year or so ago. And it's nice to continue to see content being released for it. And it's also unusual to see a 10th to 17th level adventure. Most adventures are tier 1, tier 2, right? So really cool to see that going on. It is a pay what you want title. So that means you can pay what you want. The suggested price is $6.57. As always, we recommend paying something to support these creators. They do put a lot of hard work into it. And in this case, it's a 199-page book. So just one page shy of 200 pages. So definitely want to contribute some funds to the creator to support all of that work it must have taken to get that many pages going. It says, salvage an out-of-control floating theme park as it hurtles through the void. Saurian pirates leave loot behind to try to reactivate the engines. Living mimic ships try to transform it into something new. Githyanki dragoons desperately try to wipe it from existence to preserve the dark secrets within. And the animatronics, the last remnants of the Carnivant's former glory, defend their home and everything they have. It's up to you to influence who wins and who loses in the ultimate theme park experience. Fun for the whole family. It says, it's for seasoned players, featuring heavy use of dungeon crawls and space combats, all set on a giant theme park spaceship hurtling uncontrollably towards a populated planet. Race against time to stop Carnivant before it hits the planet in a fiery explosion like an extinction level meteor. So really cool storyline, and reminds me of a lot of sci-fi shows, whether it's Farscape or Star Trek or any of those space operas where people are floating around in space and doing different things and trying to save planets from destruction. And so you could be the hero here, save a whole planet for a change instead of just a village, right? Love that, and love the concept of this being like a giant theme park that's just kind of floating around in space. And they're using an interesting preview here. It looks like it's a selected, like an excerpt, because the page numbers are 120 through, let's see what the last page is, 132. So you're getting to kind of look at something right in the middle, which is good. Sometimes a preview of the first few pages doesn't really sell the book. It doesn't really help you understand what you're buying. So I like when authors consider showing a different part of the book as their full-size preview. So in this case, we're later in the book. So I just want to point that out. So if you read this, you're not confused as to why you're kind of in the middle of the story as you look at it. But I think it's great. So here they have this kind of flow style. It's a half-page column almost, maybe a little bit more than that, but centered. So I was reading through it a little bit earlier, and I like it. It's different, but I think it draws your eye towards what you really need to focus on, because you don't have two different columns that you're looking at like most books, and you can really just see what you need to be looking at and focus on it, which I like. So it starts here. It says, descent, a funny word when there's no up or down, but that's what you're doing. Descending, void on all sides of you, a light show, partly the laser fire of the Githyanki skiffs, partly the fireworks bursting from the entrance to the Carnivant you are rapidly shooting towards. A meteor 30 feet across whips past your head. If you fell even slightly slower, you'd be dead already. In burning chunks of metal, wood, and magic, your Spelljammer crumbles to pieces as it enters the artificial atmosphere of the Carnivant. And when you follow suit, it's like being punched in the gut with a planet. You black out in your dreams of falling you remember. And then it says choose one of the following prompts for each player to use to introduce their character to the table. And then it gives you a lot of options. The first one is it kills you to see the Spelljammer broken apart again. You spend a year of your life piecing it back together after the last catastrophe, letting your personal life fall apart in the process. Describe your character briefly, outline your history with the Spelljammer, and give the poor broken thing a name. So that would be one option. Another option would be the 𝙎𝙬𝙧𝙬𝙧 told you this would be your last mission. All you had to do was not screw it up. The thing is, however, you screwed it up on purpose. You knew exactly what you were doing. Describe your character, explain the terrible pact you made with Delight, and describe exactly what you were willing to do to get out of it that landed you in this situation. So two very different paths that you could start with, right? But it's really cool to see that the authors are giving you these choices here, or I should say the author, because it is one singular person, William Roeder here. But they're giving you different options for how you're going to pick up the story. And that's just two. There's quite a list here, and I'm sure you could probably create your own as well. And now that I'm reading it more, I should say, I said earlier, I think this is an excerpt from the middle, but it might be a custom-made excerpt, and the page numbers might not be the actual ones, because this seems very early in the adventure. So I would expect this text to be earlier than page 120 in the real book, but I'm not sure. This may be just a custom sample with different page numbering. So it doesn't matter. It's good stuff either way. And it talks about what happens. It says the ground is welcoming, almost. You pick yourself up from the burning rubble. You don't know how you survive. Sheer force of will, maybe. Most of the crew wasn't so lucky. A few others you recognize stumble to their feet, as surprised to be alive as you are. As you gravitate back together, you take stock of your surroundings. You are at the entrance to this enormous floating theme park. Before you stretches Rhubarb Boulevard, an idyllic street of welcoming small-town shop fronts. Above you is a tattered banner that reads Carnivant. So this is kind of your introduction. You have a Spelljammer that crashes into this massive floating theme park, and then you take it from there and you see the map of it with areas like Monster Safari, Rhubarb Boulevard, Kings and Chronicles, and the Carnibridge. So you can only imagine what's going to happen in some of these areas. And here you get a separate map of Rhubarb Boulevard. So very, very cool. I think this is just going to be a lot of fun. Here is says another Rhubarb animatronic dressed as a supermodel offers the party a selection of fine clothes to buy. In exchange, they must provide her more pieces of clothing she can sell. She doesn't actually understand what clothing is and offers the following items. So I think animatronics are interesting, and I haven't thought of them much in terms of D&D. But yeah, you could have them, kind of a Five Nights at Freddy's situation, or, Chuck E. Cheese, if you will. These little animatronics going on, and they don't really understand their function or their purpose. They're just kind of going through the motions, right? And so here are all these items. You have a fashionable hat, but it says the actual item. So that's the description. But the actual item, a receiver signal tuned to the Carnibridge, obviously ripped from an animatronic after caving its skull, and the receiver is non-functional. So this animatronic, it sounds like, thinks that this receiver is a fashionable hat and is offering it as that, and maybe the character's looking at it going, I'm not sure I could put that on my head. And this is elegant blouse, silver half plate laid with rubies, recently stolen from a dead Githyanki knight. And there's a severed tail in here and all sorts of stuff, right? But fun. I like how they're going to have to go through and encounter these different animatronics. There's games, candy, different things going on. I mean, one of the quotes is, "Wow, your precision rivals even mine, and I was machine built in a factory. Ho ho! Here, take this prize." So they've even got some of the corny kind of jokes that you would hear maybe in a theme park setting. Yeah, I think this is fun. I'm intrigued by the center partial column layout. I think it really, at least when I was looking through it, it drew me right in and made me focus more. So you don't really see that technique, but I'm liking it. So I'm not sure how everyone will receive it, but that's the beauty of the show. You're getting to see new things and experience different books every week. So love that. And I hope you check this out, especially at a pay what you want price. You can download it for free, and then if you decide to play it, you got to make sure you pay and support William Roeder here. But it's called Spelljammer Carnivant, and it's in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we have Vampires Rising from Koa the DM, $15 for the 56 pages, and it's a setting agnostic supplement for vampires. It says, we all know vampires, a monster archetype and a story almost as undying and immortal as the creature itself, but vampires in 5th edition sometimes can be lacking in terms of their abilities, combat prowess, and just general creativity. Although they do pull on the specifics of vampire mythos, for the purposes of a D&D game, there isn't too much to go off of, let alone to base a campaign on. This supplement fixes such an issue by asking questions such as, what kind of person in a fantasy world would become a vampire? Why would they become a vampire? What magic would a vampire develop given decades of immortality? What magical items and artifacts would vampires develop? How could a player become a vampire? Etc. But I mean, it's so true. I mean, if a vampire is going to live for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, wouldn't they get up to some different things? Maybe that longevity gives them options that those with shorter lives don't have, although a lot of the fantastical races have extremely long lives as well. So it says, vampires that exist in the monster manual only allow for a specific party of a specific level of a specific kind of play to be fought. This supplement deepens vampire encounters by adding in 10 brand new vampires from the lowly CR of 3 to a deranged sommelier vampire of CR 12. With more interesting abilities and lore than the tools the traditional vampire gives, this will ensure that a vampire-themed campaign or one-shot will have vampire monsters to populate your encounters, regardless of the level of the players. Very, very cool. And then, of course, there's player options. And it says a new branch of vampiric magic. Rather than just inflate the spell list further, vampiric magic is quite different, developed by vampires that utilize the substance that they so crave to better manipulate and destroy their greatest enemies and food. Vampiric magic spells are designed intentionally to be more powerful than traditional spells of their level. This is not realized through radically increased damage numbers, but instead its ability to grow even more empowered and have additional effects when empowered by blood, either through collected conduits or when the target of the spell is bloodied half of their total hit points. So it's from looking at it, it's not a spell that you would just add as you level. It's something that you would maybe learn through study with an NPC, or maybe it's a reward from, a spell book that you find, kind of special is what I would say. And you've got 31 new magic items. You got 30 new vampire magic spells, ranging from cantrips to 6th level. You got 14 new vampiric feats, 7 new vampire-inspired subclasses, and 10 vampires from CR3 to 12. So quite a grab bag of different things, all themed around vampires. So you can use this with Ravenloft to flesh it out more. Maybe, post Curse of Strahd, there's some other vampires that you encounter, or in a different domain of dread, or really anywhere. I mean, vampires can be anywhere. They could show up in the Forgotten Realms, wherever. Looking inside, we can see that the book has a ton of spells, starting with Binding Blood all the way to Wings of Rot. Then they've got the Sanguinary Vampirus, which is a mechanism for players to become vampires. So you can use that, or of course other books have options to become vampires, like the Dampier in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. But it's cool that there's an option here as well in this book. Then there's a bunch of character options with all the different subclasses, backgrounds, etc. It looks like, or I shouldn't say backgrounds, feats there are feats here, a bunch of feats, starting with Allure of the Undead and Walk Amongst the Dead, and then you've got Strahd's Chosen, which is all those subclasses that you get, like the Primal Path of Deathless, the Druidic Circle of Blood, the Blood Brood, and the Bloodshot for the Fighter and others. And then you get your stat blocks for all those different vampires, and then of course a bunch of magic items ranging from common to very rare. You've got something called the Claymore of Ruin for the very rare, which is really cool. But if you scroll down, it talks about how to integrate vampiric magic, because it is special. You're not supposed to just hand it out to players, although you could, I guess, and it is a little bit more powerful. So it talks about, training to get these spells, or maybe, as a reward for something. And some of them use bloodletting, so that could be yourself if there's not a fallen enemy nearby to make the target of that. So we're going to just look at one of the spells here, because I don't want to ruin everything. I want you to look at it for yourself, enjoy it, take it in, spend your own time with it. And then we're going to look at one of the feats. So there's this one here called Hemophilia. It's first level, 1 reaction, 60 feet, and its duration of 1 minute. It says, when you see a creature with blood take piercing or slashing damage within range, you can reach out and force their wound to immediately rupture and continue to excessively bleed. The target immediately takes an additional 1d8 necrotic damage and has a grievous wound. While the target has a grievous wound, they take 2d6 necrotic damage at the start of each of their turns. At the end of each of their turns, the target must make, or can make, a con saving throw, ending the effect upon a success. The effect also ends if the target regains any hit points or an action is taken to staunch the bleeding. And then, of course, the damage increases normally through upcasting. So you have the at higher level section, and but then there's an extra paragraph here, and this is where the vampiric magic comes in, right? It says, as part of casting the spell, you can consume an ounce of blood from a humanoid that has been slain in the past 24 hours to deal an additional 1d8 necrotic damage immediately upon casting the spell. If the target is bloodied, you do not need to consume the blood to gain this effect. So there you go. You get extra damage if you do this blood connection, and then there's also the possibility that a creature could be bloodied, which means that they have only half their hit points or less remaining, which you might be dependent in some cases on the DM to inform you of that. But if the DM's letting you use a spell, they know they're going to need to do that. So very, very cool way to work in the bloodied mechanic as well. Love seeing that here, since we've covered books on this channel that bring that mechanic back into to 5th edition, and really you can use it without it being there. You just the notion that the creature that the players are interacting with is at 50% or less of its hit points. But lots and lots of spells here to explore, ranging from cantrip to 6th level. Very, very cool. So let's look now at one of the here's the player option to become a vampire. But let's look now at one of the feats. Although I will pause to say that I love that the vampirism goes through stages here. Anytime a medical condition in D&D goes through stages, I really like that, because it's not a one and done, like, oh, you have this poison condition, blah blah blah, right? It's something that's going to be like almost like a subplot. As time goes on, it's going to go through the different stages, right? So love that. But moving down here, there's a bunch of feats, and we're going to just read one, but I hope you come here and read the others. Eyes of the Bloodthirsty. So you have to be either Dampire Origin, which is in the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, or you have to be a stage 4, which would be that final stage of that disease we're talking about, of vampirism, through the Sanguinary Vampirus option in this book. It says your hunger for the living and thirst for blood has driven you to develop a magical sense of perception for better finding prey. You gain the following benefits. So you get an ability increase of 1 for either Dex, Con, or Wisdom. And then it says life sense. As an action, you can fill your eyes with an otherworldly perception, and you can see living creatures through solid objects out to a range of 60 feet. The special sight lasts for 1 minute. You can only perceive living creatures when gazing through objects, and the living creatures you perceive are ghostly, transparent images. However, you can automatically tell if a creature is bloodied with this sight. Once you have used this feature, you cannot use it again until you complete a short or long rest. So basically, once per before resting, you can decide, I want to look through walls and stuff and see living creatures, right? So maybe if they're living, they can have blood or breath or something that you're detecting that you could role play. I'm seeing this, and it's like they're ghostly, but I know that they're there, and I can tell that they've been injured, because they're bloodied, maybe. Right? So you could really have some fun with that kind of, the DM whispering what's there to you, or messaging you if you're using computers, and then you can kind of really just embellish it and say, it looks like this or whatever, and I just think that's fun. It's a little different, and it's a feat. So really cool. You get your ability score improvement as well, and that's just one of the feats. There's a bunch in here from Koa the DM, and I think it's fun. I mean, who doesn't need options? And remember, with books like this where they're just giving you an assortment of options, 31 magic items, 30 spells, 14 feats, subclasses, you don't have to have a vampire themed campaign. You can just pick and choose pieces to use in a homebrew setting. Maybe you have just a character in your setting that is involved with vampirism. It's not the whole setting or campaign. Or maybe you're going deep into Ravenloft. Maybe Curse of Strahd has already happened, and so you're seeing what the aftermath is with some of this stuff. Or maybe it's a different domain of dread. Or maybe you're in the Forgotten Realms and there's a vampire. I mean, anywhere. These things can be used. You can pluck out a singular spell or all of them. Same with the items. Great to have books like this. So I hope you look for it in the video description links. It's under Vampires Rising. Give it a click. Next, we have Why Slay Dragons When You Could Be Fishing. It's from IO Publishing, $30 for the PDF, and it's 318 pages. This was a Kickstarter, very popular one that I backed as well, and it's exciting to see it now available for others here on DriveThru. And it says fishing, carving, and crafting systems for 5th edition games with a modular rule set. You get 200 plus fish to catch, spanning over 12 environments, with rules on creating your own fish and lunkers. There's 4 new races with a combination of 10 sub-races, 12 new subclasses, 100 plus new items, and of course it's hyperlinked and bookmarked, which we love when books do that, especially digital. There's really no reason not to do that in a digital book. But it seems to be uncommon, and that makes me sad, because that's one of the advantages of a digital book, is that you can bounce around using bookmarks, and it just makes navigation so much easier. So love seeing that. So some beautiful artwork in here. Loved reading through this and finding out the journey of the book to the page. And here you go. Beautiful fish catching image right off the bat. It says, fishing is the self-defined undertaking of catching fish, and in a world of fantasy, there are many different types of fish that you can catch. What lands on the line can be anything from a typical fish you are familiar with, such as bass or trout, while in other areas you may catch something far more supernatural, almost aberrant. Fishing can be done out of necessity as a stable food source for a coastal village, or it can be done to harvest rare and wondrous ingredients for potion and item creation. More simply, fishing can also be done for sport and recreation. So it talks about, how to integrate this. And it says, alongside a short or long rest, you can take part in an activity. During a short rest, you can complete 1 activity. During a long rest, you can complete 2. And it says an activity typically takes 1 hour in the game world's time, but a GM can change it to take less than this. But activities in this book include fishing, progressing a carving project, and progressing a crafting project. So remember, it's not just fishing this book. It takes it further with carving and crafting. Player characters still gain the benefits of a short or long rest while participating in an activity. So one or more anglers who wish to fish could be involved. It says to fish, the angler must dedicate an activity at a fishing area and have the appropriate equipment to fish. And usually some sort of, that includes like fishing tackle. A GM will determine what fishing equipment is appropriate. For example, someone who is noodling may not even require additional equipment. It says when multiple anglers in the adventuring party are fishing at the same time, they roll initiative as if they were in combat to determine the order in which they will resolve their fishing activity. And then it shows how it goes through the whole thing. You roll on a table, you resolve any encounters that result, you take turns with the other anglers, etc. So let's read about the fishing table and the fishing encounters. This is the angler in the fishing order rolls on the fishing table corresponding with the environment to determine if the angler hooks anything. The fishing table is a D100 table of fish. A roll of 1 to 40 yields no fish. A roll of 41 to 50 yields junk. And then 51 to 100 gives you a fish of some sort. So you basically have a 50% chance of getting something beyond junk. It says if an angler rolls higher than 100 on the fishing table to choose the result. If an angler hooks a fish, they go into a fishing encounter. And then there's a fish's catch DC and all this stuff. But what I love is that it's not crazy. Like the system is reminiscent of other mechanics, other systems in 5th edition. So it feels at home. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're doing this thing that's really outside the norm. It doesn't make as much sense. It's so different than what we're used to. No, it's the same kind of stuff. You have a table, you have DCs, fish catch DCs, etc. You're using initiative. So I like that. I think that's, if there's any, designers watching, when you're designing for 5th edition, if you can create a sense of familiarity with your new mechanics, I think that is a really good selling point, because some tables can be resistant to new stuff, or have a little side eye for it. And if you make it close to something they know, then it's just easier for them to adopt to, even if they're very open and open-minded about these kinds of things. So it talks about selling them to fishmongers, fish remains, fish parts, carving. After catching a fish, an angler can carve it, keeping only its valuable fish parts. Carving a fish requires a survival check, although the GM may allow alternative ability checks if there's a justification made. And that's your carve check, and it talks about what your DC is for that. I mean, just easy DC stuff. It's not going to be hard to pick this up. And even I think beyond the mechanics here, you've got new races, new subclasses, new items, and really new things in the world, right? We've talked a lot on this series about plants, right? And how plants can help make the world seem fantastical. Because, when it's theater of the mind and you're describing this stuff and it's really only the monster that's different than the real world, you can change that by having a plant show up that's a little different. But I think the same is true here with all these fish. I mean, there's 200 plus different fish. So people know about trout and bass and things like that, right? And so if you have some wild named fish and it looks a little different and it's got some magical details to it, or it's got maybe even some connections to other D&D monsters, and it's just trying to live its best fish life, that's atmosphere for your campaign. So I love that. I'm so happy I have this book in my collection. I think it's really fun and well made. So I hope you grab it and add it to your collection as well. But first you need to look for it in our video description. There's a link for it under Why Slay Dragons When You Could Be Fishing, and give it a click. Next we have The World of Kensei from Riot Minds. It's $9.99 for the PDF and it's 176 pages. And this was a Kickstarter, I believe, at some point. I'm not sure. I missed it, and I grabbed a copy of the hardcover. I think it was eBay or one of those sellers, maybe Noble Books or something. Noble Games, Noble Knight Games. Can't think of the name right now, but I think it was Noble Knight Games. Anyway, somewhere I got it secondhand because I missed the Kickstarter. But it's really beautifully illustrated book. It says, "Welcome to the world of Kensei, an Asian-inspired world setting for 5th edition. The world of Kensei is a place of great heroes and utter evil, encompassing lands of ancient myths and high peril. Courageous warriors brave the ancient shrines of the old gods, now home to evil creatures. These are the lands of Tatsu, a new continent of beauty and age-old evil. Tatsu is yours to adventure in, yours to defend, and yours to shape and rule, from the highlands of Raccoon to the deep jungles of Kawashi. Tatsu is a land of high adventure. It is a continent that spans more than 30,000 miles from east to west and 25,000 miles from north to south, so it's pretty big. So this is dominated by the cyclical rise and cataclysmic destruction of provinces and kingdoms once founded by the gods. Magic and holy powers slumber in the wreckage of ancient ruins and deep jungles that once belonged to them. Every year, some new wonder is rediscovered in an old temple ruin, a scroll with an ancient spell, a statue with holy powers, or a staff endowed with great magic. Before the birth of the human race, the gods waged war on each other and the dragons for many years." So this has got a lot of history to it, right? All sorts of things going on, because it says, "For the last 1,000 years, the ancient lands of Tatsu have been shrouded in darkness, war, and age-old evil." So it's been a long time that they've had to deal with this, and wanting to maybe get back to the old ways. But this is a rich history with gods and dragons and such vast territories. So many things you can discover in this world of Kensei. So you've got background on the world itself, and then there's even some player options with race information, and there's something called the Moon Touched. You get a new class called the Bushi, as well as its archetypes, spells, equipment, and then a bunch of monsters. There's the Oendan, and then Yamoroshi. That's kind of the range. Yamoroshi. I'm sure I'm butchering that. But some fun creatures, and then of course more about the world, lots of the places in there. So this is really going to be a resource for DMs to bring this place to life. So you're getting to see 6 of the pages here. So I'm going to read just a little bit of what we can read here for Tatsu. It says, "Tatsu is dominated by human provinces and domains, often centered around a strong fortress or monastery. Scattered among the lands of humans are old ruins and uncharted wilderness. A great deal of adventure is to be had in the ancient lands for those brave enough to seek it out. The roads between cities and clan domains often cross into the territory of outlaws or marauding onis. Every corner of Tatsu has its perils: dangerous monsters, savage ronins, or mighty creatures such as dragons. Old temple ruins dot the landscape, often covered and hidden in the deepest jungle. In these places, treasures and honor await adventurers bold enough to come and claim them." So, yeah, that sounds cool. All these ruins, monasteries, different things that you could discover wandering about Tatsu. It says, "The Raccoon Highlands are harsh and unforgiving, known for their vast stretches of evergreen forests, wild rivers, and rocky mountain passes. Great dangers lurk in the mountains that were once filled with temples and shrines from the Second Age, but are now inhabited by evil spirits, brutal yokai, onis, and even fierce dragons." So love that. And I can just picture some of these dragons and how they're going to look, because, if we're thinking about Asian inspiration, there's a lot of cool dragons from Asia that could be used in this, it seems like. It says, "Rulership in Tatsu realm is complex at best. Warlords or priesthoods rule Tatsu kingdoms or clan areas, at least when it comes to humans. Elves and dwarves have their domains and do not fight for land or power like humans. Beneath the warlords or high priests are the warrior commanders or the temple priests. Within a province, dozens of minor clans and temples exist, which might or might not acknowledge the warlord or high priest as sovereign. Each minor clan or temple is led by chief or chiefess. Countless individuals with power or high honor may also influence the domain. So, even though it's 30,000 miles one way and 25,000 miles the other way, you've got these little clans, and so there's going to be all these complex politics that you can play or not lean into. It's up to you, right? But it's cool that you've got these different little domains, and that warlords may or may not recognize each other, which can be an insult, right? And just all these squabbles that you're going to have as you roam the monasteries and the temples and the ruins and the different things that you're going to find throughout Kensei. So just really cool, beautiful. I mean, this cover is just stunning. Just a fun, different book for you to add to your collection. And I think you're going to have such a great time. We don't see it enough Asian inspired things, from creators out there. So I think this could be just a hit with your table. So you got to check it out. It's under World of Kensei in the links below. Give it a click. Now we come to that part of the episode where we're going to give some shout outs to some other releases that released recently that we think you should know about, but we just don't have time to take a deep dive into, but we hope you'll click those links in the video description and discover them for yourself. First up, we have Advanced Fantasy Dungeons, which is for OSR plus 2nd edition. It's core rules, spells, and monsters, and it says a parallel universe of fantasy role-playing participate in a world that diverged from ours in 1993. So it sounds like it's a mixture of 2E and basic or 1st edition. So you got to check that out. It is pay what you want price, suggested at $10. It's 155 pages. And it's on DriveThruRPG. Then we've got the Cash Cow. It is $2.99 for 12 pages. And it's an adventure for level 4 involving a cow, of course. Then we've got Dirge of the Forlorn Piscator, which is a 29-page adventure for levels 1 to 3 for OSR. It's only $4.99. Then we've got the Dragon's Hoard, issue number 39. $5.99 for this magazine, basically. That's 28 pages. It's got all kinds of stuff for 5th edition, including items, spells, subclasses in there for you. Then we've got Dungeon Backdrop, Cannibal Druid of the Scorned Forest. This is the system neutral version, but you can also find versions for OSR and other systems here on DriveThru. It's basically a location. It gives you a framework for an adventure that you can populate with your own monsters, and just have real good time with this. Only $3.75, so that's pretty inexpensive to give you a framework for an adventure, and it's 15 pages. Then we've got Gary's Appendix, issue 4, $8 for this. It's 44 pages. It's for OSR. It's filled with monsters and reference material to help you with your OSR games. Then we've got Glyph for the School of Illusion, $5.95 for 11 pages. This is bonus spell modifications, so you can tweak your spells. We've talked about some of the past issues in this series on the channel previously. It's got some optional rules and ways to bring in those glyphs and tweak some of the spells that you know, or maybe make them special or have an NPC do something different with some of those famous spells. So check that out. It's $5.95, 11 pages. Then we've got Holy Book of Armaments, Wild West 5th edition options. It's $4.95 for 17 pages. And this is going to give you all sorts of Wild Western goodies, including subclasses, items, and backgrounds. Then we've got Mud Wizard, which is an old school essentials class. It's $3 for 14 pages. And so, of course, it works with old school essentials or OSR, and it's going to give you a class. Then we've got Operation PEARL, or Operation Pearl, $5 for 13 pages. And Pearl stands for Pixie Extraction and Recovery League, which is one of the factions that you're going to meet as part of this fun adventure, and it's for 5th edition. Then we've got Priest of the Black Sun. It's $3.71 for 15 pages. This is a cleric subclass with monsters and a deity with some really fun artwork on the cover. And then we've got the Spell Sword, 5th edition. It's a class for $2.99 for 9 pages. And lastly, we have the Stolen Tiamat, an adventure told as a comic book. So this is the second one from author Brian McLaughlin. It is $10 for 40 pages, and as described, it's basically a comic book, but it's an adventure at the same time. Hard to explain, but hopefully you'll check out the full-size preview to understand what I mean by that. It's definitely very creative and interesting to see that Brian's continuing to release these kinds of adventures. I think that's cool how it's mixed up and not what you're typically expecting. It's subverting those expectations. So very, very cool. And of course, for 5th edition, since it's on the DM's Guild. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us a comment for that algorithm. I'll respond to all those comments personally. And if you can, share the video on your social media to help us get the word out about our show and all the wonderful titles we have to share each week. And if you want to support those creators, click those links in the video description, purchase their books, follow them, leave reviews, all that good stuff. And if you purchase anything after you click those links, you're going to be helping the channel through a very small affiliate fee, and we love that. And you know, you can help us every time you shop if you bookmark one of our links to be your link to get to Dungeon Masters Guild or drive through, because then anything you purchase is going to give a little bit back to this channel, which helps keep us going, and we truly appreciate it. We also have 7 books that we've released over the years available at splinterverse.com or in those video description links as well, including our Mithril bestselling Feywild Companion and a bunch of other books that we hope you check out. And you really want to be sure to follow us at Splinterverse on all those social medias, because we have a Kickstarter coming in 2024 that's a 2-book set of an adventure and a campaign setting. So it's super, super cool. You're not going to want to miss it. And that means Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Mastodon, you name it, we're there under Splinterverse. So just search for us and follow, and we'll probably follow you back. All right. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And until next time, happy adventuring.